4 easy steps to starting an awesome podcast. Starting your own podcast probably sounds like a Herculean project for you right now, but it doesn't have to be. In today's presentation, I'm going to show you the 4 easy steps you can follow to start your very own podcast. Step 1. Choose a topic and come up with your show's name. Your podcast is your own show. You can talk about anything and everything under the sun. But if you want to attract a specific audience, then you need to narrow down your topics. You need to define what your podcast is going to be all about. In short, what do you want to be known about? Do you want to be known as the top marketing expert in your niche? Or that funny author who publishes exclusively on Kindle? Whatever you choose, you need to be able to commit and create content consistently and keep your audience coming back for more. Step number 2. Create a plan for your podcast episodes. Podcasting is also a form of content marketing. You want to stand out from the crowd, right? Then you need to come up with a content strategy that will fit your podcast message or branding. Treat your podcast like a business. Plan everything in advance. If you're thinking of interviewing experts in your industry, then write it down in your calendar so you can reach out to them well ahead of time. Create an outline or draft of your upcoming episodes. You don't want to just wing podcast episodes. You could end up wasting a lot of time editing and re-recording episodes if you ramble off topic for far too long. Step 3. Record your podcast episodes. Now that you've got a plan for your podcast episodes, it's time to record your episodes. You're just starting out, so you will need to make sure you come across as someone that people will want to listen to. You can choose to follow an outline of your main topics, or you can read from a script. Step 4. Publish and promote your podcast. To publish your podcast, you need to select a good podcast hosting service. Libsyn is one of the more popular ones. Once you've uploaded your episodes to your host, it's time to promote your new show to your target audience. 5 podcast monetization methods you can use today. Podcasting can be both fun and hard work. But did you know you can also earn some money in the process? Many podcasts earn anywhere from $100 to several $1,000s a month. If you're planning to set up your own podcast, then stay tuned to this presentation. I'm going to show you the top 5 podcast monetization methods you can use today. Let's begin. Number 1. Sponsorships. When it comes to sponsorships, you need to build a sizable audience first before anyone will consider sponsoring your podcast. But once you've got a few thousand fans tuning into your podcast, then you can start reaching out to potential sponsors and advertisers. Alternatively, you can use a platform like Midroll or Authentic. The next option, however, is the best one. Once your podcast becomes big enough, sponsors will be the ones knocking on your virtual doorstep to ask you to promote or endorse their brands. Number 2. Affiliate marketing. It's relatively easy for one to make money with affiliate marketing. You simply get your special link that has your unique tracking code in it. And when people click on your link to buy your recommended product, then you get a commission. There are plenty of affiliate networks you can join. The most popular one, though, is probably Amazon. Other networks include ClickBank, ShareASale, Commission Junction, JVZoo, and so much more. Number 3. Selling your own products or services. If you've got an established brand outside of podcasting, then it will be relatively easy for you to plug your own products and services on your show. Of course, try not to be pushy or aggressive, as many dislike high-pressure sales tactics like this. Instead, promote your own products or services as a solution to people's various pain points. Number 4. Coaching. Coaching can be quite lucrative, especially if you position yourself as an expert in your niche. You'd basically be teaching the same things you talk about on your podcast, but only more in depth. Another selling point for coaching is that students will have direct access to you, so they can ask you questions and get answers relatively quickly. Number 5. Courses. You can sell your own courses or even other people's courses as an affiliate on your podcast. Courses are great for podcasters who want to provide their audience a more organized and in-depth look into subjects they're experts of. They're also great for generating passive income on the side. 5 podcast styles you can follow. Podcasts have been around for years. If you think its popularity is about to fizzle out soon, you're mistaken. The popularity of podcasting has been steadily growing every year. If you want to get in on the podcast gravy train, then stay tuned to this presentation to find out about the top styles you can follow for your own podcast. Let's begin. Number 1, the solo show. This podcast style is probably the easiest one to use when you're just starting out. Many podcasts are hosted by an individual. Solo hosts often use their name on the podcast show title, like John Smith's Awesome Podcast Show. Solo podcasts are also easy to produce. You don't need to wait for someone else to become available. You can simply record your episodes as and when you feel like it. The only downside is you'll probably run out of things to say much faster than if you're doing the show with someone else. Number 2, multi-host show. Many podcasts nowadays now follow this style. When you've got 2 or more people sharing ideas and thoughts, then there's less chance you'll run out of topics to talk about. You'll be able to present different ideas to your listeners. You can even agree to disagree on most topics to make your show interesting. Number 3, one-on-one interview. There are many benefits to interviewing other people on your show. 1, you don't have to do all the talking, so you can rest your vocal cords for a bit. And 2, your audience will have someone else to listen to other than you and your co-host. Another benefit is that your guests will be letting their followers know they've been interviewed on your show. This means that their followers can potentially become your followers too. Number 4, roundtable discussion. A roundtable or panel discussion is a lot of fun. You'll have different people chiming in with their opinions on different topics. Just make sure you put a time limit on the discussion because it's easy to get carried away when you're having a lot of fun with like-minded people. Number 5, storytelling. Some podcasts are in a storytelling format. Sometimes the host will be reading one story for the entire show. For other shows, they'll narrate one story over the course of an entire season. So it's sort of like a radio drama, but in podcasting format. 6 secret tricks to producing powerful podcast content. Podcasts aren't created equal. There are great podcasts and there are meh podcasts. Which one do you want to listen to every chance you get? Not the meh podcast, I'm sure. So, if you want your audience to stick around, then stay tuned to this presentation. Today, I'm going to share with you 6 secret tricks to producing powerful content for your podcast. Number 1, answer people's questions. People listen to your podcast because you promised to provide something of value to them. Or were you able to answer their all-important question, what's in it for me? If you want your listeners to keep on tuning into your upcoming episodes, then you need to find a way to keep on answering that question. Find out what they want to know and discover their pain points. Then talk about it on your podcast. Number 2, show people how to do things the right way. People love how-to tutorials. If you've got a podcast on making money online, then discuss specific methods and techniques to help people start earning money. Demonstrate your expertise by sharing the methods that worked for you. Of course, you don't necessarily need to give out all your secrets, but at least give them an overview to show them how to do things the right way. Number 3, be original and authentic. Many people listen to podcasts because they like the host's personality. If you sound like you're having fun and enjoying your show, then it's much easier for your listeners to hit that subscribe button. Number 4, plan your podcast content in advance. When you plan in advance, then you can basically tell your listeners what your next show is going to be all about. You can give them a quick background on your next topic to have them look forward to your next episode. Number 5, tell a story. Make your podcast engaging by sharing your personal stories or those of people you know. People may not remember specific methods and techniques, but they will most likely remember your stories. Number 6, add a call to action. Yes, your podcast needs to have a call to action as well. What do you want your listeners to do after listening to your show? Do you want them to subscribe to your email list? Do you want them to sign up for your online course? Don't leave your audience hanging. Make sure there's a call to action for each of your podcast episodes. 7 easy ways to promote your podcast. You want your voice to be heard, and you want people to listen to your podcast. If you need ideas to get the ball rolling, then stay tuned to this presentation. Today, you're going to know 7 of the easiest ways to promote your new podcast to your target audience. Let's begin. Number 1, submit to as many podcast directories as possible. Make sure you have your podcast title, description, tags, artwork, and a few episodes ready before you submit your podcast to directories. Your first stop should be iTunes, simply because it's the largest podcast directory in the world. Next, upload your content to platforms like Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and more. Number 2, share on social media. Let your followers on social media know that you've got a podcast. Whichever platforms you use, let your family and friends know and ask them to share it with their followers as well. Number 3, ask your podcast listeners to follow you on social media. For branding purposes, use your podcast title as your social media handle. It will be easier for people to remember your brand that way. Give a quick mention of your social media channels on every episode and ask your listeners to follow you. Number 4, link your podcast episodes on your blog. Create a new post for every episode and add a link to your MP3 file. Then write out a transcript or show notes for each episode. Your written content will be indexed on search engines, so you'll most probably get a nice chunk of search engine traffic later on. Number 5, interview experts in your niche. People love being recognized as experts, so if you tell people you're interviewing experts for your podcast, chances are you'll have a good number of people signing up. They can promote their businesses or their podcasts, and they'll let people know that they were interviewed on your awesome show. Number 6, record your podcast on video. Hit 2 birds with 1 stone and video yourself while recording your podcast episode. Then upload it to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, etc. to give your fans a sneak peek at how you do your podcast. Number 7, pay for advertising. You don't need to spend a ton of money to get the word out about your new podcast. If you can afford to spare a few dollars a day, you can advertise on Facebook ads, Instagram, maybe even Bing ads. In this presentation, I'm going to share with you 10 of the most important tools you'll need for podcasting success. Let's begin. Number 1, a good microphone. Not all microphones are created equal. A good quality microphone is necessary if you want your podcast to sound good. Number 2, pop filter. It's annoying to hear B's, P's, G's, and D's amplified on podcasts. You don't want this to happen to your show. Get a pop filter. It only costs a few dollars. Number 3, podcast hosting account. You don't want your podcast audio files eating up your web hosting bandwidth. Get a good podcast hosting account. They're relatively cheap. Check out Libsyn, one of the most popular podcast hosting services. Number 4, multi-platform note-taking software. It's important to know what you're going to talk about in your podcast episodes. Use a multi-platform note-taking software so you can easily pick up where you left off. You can start writing down your ideas on your mobile phone and then finish it up on your laptop. Number 5, Google Calendar. Google Calendar is a great tool for scheduling your podcast episodes. You can add different calendars to your account, and you can label each one with a different color. Number 6, Audacity. Audacity is a free, open source, and cross-platform audio editing software. There's a bit of a learning curve, but don't worry. There are lots of tutorials on YouTube to help you get up to speed on how to use this powerful software. Number 7, voice typing tool. Show notes are important for your podcast. You can hire a transcription service to transcribe your episodes, or you can use a voice typing tool. For best results, make sure you speak clearly and audibly so the software can make out what you're saying. Number 8, feed validator. A feed validator is needed to make sure there are no problems with your podcast's RSS feed. Most podcast hosting services include a feed validator, but it won't hurt to run your feed through a service like Feed Validator. Number 9, graphic design software. An eye-catching artwork can make the difference between people checking out your podcast on iTunes or any other directory, or skipping it entirely. You can use Photoshop or a free tool like Canva to design your podcast artwork. Number 10, live streaming platform. Show your podcast listeners how you work. When you go live on platforms like Facebook Live or YouTube Live, your followers get a notification, so you get real-time engagement from your fans.